Hello, my beautiful buds. Welcome back to my channel, Sprouts with Joy. My name is Joy, and if you like to talk about plants, you're in the right place. Every single month, I love to talk about my favorite plants of that month, so now it's time for February favorites. These are plants that have just been really standing out to me, that have honestly been obsessed with, and I just love to share them with you. Also, please comment down below what your favorite plants of the month have been. I really enjoy just kind of seeing like what different plants tend to be doing well in other people's collections, like at the same time. I don't know, it's a little bonding moment. There have been a lot more sunny days than I feel like there normally are in February, and it's honestly been putting me in a huge spring mood. I mean, right now it's super sunny outside. Like, can you see that? Like, look at that. Look at all that sun. I am obsessed with it. It makes me so happy. But yeah, with that being said, let's just jump into my favorite plants this month. Okay, this is my Hoya lacunosa super silver. Another name for it is the khroniana super silver, but I think it was maybe reclassified, or maybe it's just another name for it as the lacunosa. But okay, this plant right here, I don't know how to sit with this thing. Hang on. My arm is already getting tired holding this lady because I just watered her. I prefer to hold the mic because it feels more secure to me for some reason, but it's fine. So here she is. Oh my goodness, she's so big. She's definitely like my best grower of all my Hoyas because like she has grown to this length really quickly. She's such a nice trailing plant, and she's also been like a herald of spring because I don't know if you can see it, but look at this. Oh my goodness. It's such a cute bloom. She smells so good. And she also has like a bunch of other blooms that are about to flower, like open up. Here's another one over here. Look at that. And another one down here. So yeah, that's just like 4 blooms that I can see. One that's currently open, and then 3 that are about to emerge like any day now. And earlier this month, she also had 2 blooms that have already, you know, since dried up. But like, I feel like since the days have been getting longer, she's just been so happy with that. And so she's just been blooming like absolute crazy. And some of the plant is a bit more green, you know, like see over here, like this is a bit more green, but like the other half of the plant is like pure silver, and I am just obsessed. I'm obsessed with it. Look at that. Is that not just so beautiful? And see, there's literally 2 peduncles on this one vine that's super silvery, and there's also some of it that's a bit more splashy silver. So I just love the variation that I get on this plant, and she's so full and gorgeous. I am absolutely going to be repotting her this spring. I think I might actually end up doing like a big Hoya repot video because I have a lot of Hoyas that I have never really repotted that have grown a lot, and I think they're going to definitely need a repot. Yeah, this will be like one of the big ones. I've been hesitant to repot her because she's been so happy that, like, you know, if there's like a good thing going, I don't want to ruin it, and she's still growing, still blooming, obviously. However, she has been drying out so fast. Like, I have to water her 2 or 3 times a week. Literally, she dries up so quickly. Obviously, she's in terracotta, so that contributes as well. And she's in a south-facing window. But like earlier this year, I feel like I was only watering her, you know, once a week, kind of like a more appropriate number of times. But yeah, she's just gotten so big. And I'm pretty sure the root system is absolutely wild in there. Like, I have no doubt about it. I'm like looking at these leaves up close now, like specifically these leaves. I feel like compared to some of the other leaves on the plant, these leaves in particular are really big in this vine. Like, look at that. I don't know if you can really like tell on camera, like a good comparison. Like, these leaves are definitely smaller, you know? And I just love the shape. I love the way that it is. Oh, I highly recommend this plant to anyone because it's such a prolific bloomer and a prolific grower. I love this plant so much. The next plant on my favorites list is my Anthurium crystallinum. Okay, she is kind of all over the place in terms of the way that her leaves are facing, which maybe I'll try to remedy that someday. It's because of where she's at in the greenhouse cabinet and kind of where the grow lights are, and so some of the leaves, they're just kind of facing every which way. Although, I mean, my favorite leaf by far is definitely this one. I think this is the most recent leaf she put out of maybe a month or two ago or something, but it's so nice and dark because I actually moved her down a little bit lower so she's not as exposed to the grow lights, which the grow lights kind of bleached out some of these other leaves. See, they're like a little bit lighter, which like is fine, but like this nice dark crystallinum and also the leaf shape is so good with this particular leaf. I said, you know, this came out a couple months ago, so I actually was a little bit concerned for this plant because it stopped growing. Like it was growing really prolifically for like all summer long, obviously kind of as expected, even though she is in a greenhouse cabinet, so I didn't really expect the seasons to really affect this plant as much because there's grow lights, constant humidity, that sort of thing. But I did notice like in the beginning part of winter, like November, December, and January, like she really slowed down on her growth. And I was like, I hope that this plant is okay. But I don't know, she was just taking a break. But she is specifically on my favorites list this month because she's putting out not one, but 2 leaves. I don't know how well you can see that, but like, look, here's one right there and then another one right there. Oh my goodness. I am so excited about this, you guys. Like there's a leaf and there's a leaf. There's also a growth point over here, but you know, it's not quite as far along as these 2 leaves that are obviously like emerging actively right now. And I am just so excited to see how these leaves turn out, especially in light of like this being the other most recent leaf, and I'm obsessed with how it looks. So I'm like eagerly anticipating these 2 leaves, and it's so exciting to not just get 1 leaf, but 2 leaves at the same time. I may have to gradually transition this plant out of the cabinet because it's getting like on the bigger side, and especially with these 2 new leaves coming out, that's gonna be kind of pushing it as far as size goes. And you know, I'm also thinking if I want the leaves to all face one single direction, it might be beneficial to move this out of the greenhouse cabinet. Although admittedly, I've actually been low-key considering getting another greenhouse cabinet. I don't know for sure where I'd put it in my house yet. I have a couple of vague ideas, but if I were to do another greenhouse cabinet, I saw someone, and I think this is absolutely genius, I saw someone put their Barina grow lights not at the top of the cabinet, but on the front of the cabinet and like the front corners, kind of like in between the doors of the cabinet and the side panels of the cabinet, like in those front corners, so that the lights are facing the plants directly. And I just thought, why on earth did I not think of that? That is such a good idea, especially for plants like anthuriums that, you know, you want them to be kind of facing all one direction, like the leaves, you don't want them to be facing up. And I'm just like, yeah, why did I not think of that? I suppose I could try to transition at least some of my lights to like the sides, like in my existing greenhouse cabinet. But I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe if I were to make a future cabinet, that's how I would orient the lights. Because I mean, the top-down lights do work for some plants, but for other plants it's less ideal. So it just kind of depends on which plants that you're growing. And some of the plants that I have in the cabinet, I do prefer having like the top-down lights, especially more trailing plants. But yeah, that's sort of more of a tangent. But yeah, the main point with this plant is that I'm really excited that it's growing 2 new leaves, and I'm really eager to see how they turn out. And I am hopeful that I will have like a new growing situation with this plant at some point. Eventually, we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm loving it so much. It's absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, it's making me just fall more and more in love with anthurium. The next plant on my favorites list is also in my greenhouse cabinet, and funnily enough is also a plant that I might end up needing to transition out of the cabinet, which makes me really bummed out, but we'll have to see how things go. This is my variegated string of hearts, and look at how gorgeous and full she is, and look at how beautiful the variegation is here. Hang on, let me get out of the way so that the camera will focus on how sweet she is. I mean, obviously, she's a little bit tangled, but that's just kind of par for the course with string of hearts. Like, you can't really get around it. But like, I'm also just thinking about this for Valentine's Day. Like, is this not just the cutest Valentine's Day plant there is? Because it's pink and it's heart-shaped. I mean, I know that's not like an original idea at all, but especially in February, right around Valentine's Day, I end up really gravitating towards this plant a lot. And she's also been growing a lot and doing so well in the greenhouse cabinet. She loves that consistent light, and honestly, I do think that she benefits from the humidity, even though that's not always necessarily recommended for this plant. Like, people don't always make a big deal about the humidity, but I think that it helps that, you know, she rarely goes underwatered in the cabinet. Yep, she loves it in there. She's growing constantly. And there's some roots coming out at the bottom of the pot. I don't know if you can really make out that little root that's starting to come out, but I mean, these guys root up really well, like a lot more than I expected them to. But every time I end up repotting this plant or repotting a string of hearts variety, it always surprises me with how hard the roots go. So I'm honestly, oh yeah, I'm just looking in there and I see roots clearly. So it would not surprise me if this was fairly root bound. I also have 2 additional strains that I propagated a while back that I need to add into this pot. They're beyond ready to be potted in. And so once I pot those 2 strands in, that'll be an ideal time to repot this plant. However, that also means that the spot that she's in my cabinet, she'll no longer fit. She's currently on a magnetic shelf so that she can trail down, and I absolutely love the way that it looks in there. But yeah, unfortunately, those like magnetic spice rack things really have a maximum capacity of like a 4-inch pot, if that. I don't know, maybe there'll be another solution. Maybe I can find like another magnetic pot holder or something. I feel like I've seen those around. I've actually had a hard time with like my kids or my cats attacking my string of hearts plants specifically, and I would just be so devastated if one of my cats like knocked this plant down or started chewing on it or something like that, just because, you know, this stringy plant is very attractive to them. Like, they don't really touch my other plants, but string of hearts, they just really zero in on. So yeah, but all that being said, this plant has grown so well for me so easily. I think it's almost grown better for me than my other 2 varieties, the like regular string of hearts and the string of hearts silver glory. And I can probably attribute that to being in the greenhouse cabinet. It's just really loved the consistency that's in there, because I mean, that's the one difference between those plants. It's so pretty. I love it. I love it. The next plant is my philodendron mayoi, which is honestly a little bit tricky to even fully fit in the frame right now. But this plant, like, just take a moment, just marvel at it, honestly. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I feel like this plant is definitely underrated. And I think part of it is that it's always overshadowed by like the philodendron tortum, because the tortum is similar in a lot of ways, and that it has these like radiating, serrated, I don't know, what's the term for this? You know, whatever this leaf shape is, like it has that, but to an even more like delicate and thin degree. And so like it's just a more extreme version. But if you like kind of like the palm tree-esque shape of the tortum, or if you like that behavior, I mean, I feel like this one honestly has been so easy to grow. Like, it's super drought tolerant and it matures really quickly. The leaves, when I first got it, looked more like this, and some of those older leaves have since died off, but like almost immediately it started sizing up into leaves like this and this. So like, yeah, it matured really quickly. It looks so fun and cool. And also there's a new leaf coming out, which I did originally start growing this plant as a crawler, and I like the way that it looks as a crawler. And I did that because I was just kind of following the plant's lead. It looked like a crawler. It was behaving like a crawler. In the little pot that I got it in, it was like originally maybe in like a 4.5-inch pot. It was horizontal, like completely. The stem was horizontal. I was like, okay, well, I guess if you want to be a crawler, I'll grow you that way. And it grew as a crawler for a while, but now in the last 2 leaves, it suddenly decided to ascend. So I don't really know how I want to grow it now. And it's also like kind of reaching the end of this planter here. So like, I don't know, maybe I'll propagate it and grow it up a moss pole next, just to kind of switch things up. Or honestly, I don't really know what I want to do. I could even maybe put like a moss pole at the end of this pot and let it like continue growing up. I don't really know. That would be very interesting. That would be kind of a creative solution to this problem if I didn't want to chop it or anything. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think, what you would do with this plant. I've got like a little bit more time, but really not that much time because I feel like this plant grows relatively quickly. And so yeah, I've got to start making decisions and making plans and buying pots or supplies, whatever I need to help this plant out. Honestly, an easier route might even be like a bamboo stake and letting it climb up that, because that's clearly like what it's trying to do here. Oh gosh, it has a lot of EFNs, extra floral nectary, so I'm all sticky now. But yeah, I love this plant. I've never had any problems with it, with, you know, root rot or pests or really anything. Like, it's been loving life. I feel like this is definitely an underrated plant and it deserves more attention, hence why it's in my favorites list. And it's been really standing out to me a lot this month. The next, and I think final plant on my favorites list for February, so that's 5 plants I think, is this philodendron mame that's right behind me. It's another crawler. So I'm featuring 2 of my, I think 3 crawlers in my collection this month. I don't know why, but I've just been loving them recently. And again, I can barely fit this guy in the frame, but like, look, okay, this is the most recent leaf right here. Oh my goodness gracious. It's so big and so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I'm obsessed with the pillowy leaves. I'm obsessed with how big it is. Like, look, like bigger than my head. Literally, it's bigger than my head. Like, look at that. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. And I grew this plant from like a pretty small plant. It was in like maybe a 4 or 5 inch planter and it wasn't really crawling yet. Like, the leaves were smaller than this. So to see like how far we've come, and it has officially reached the end of the planter. It has like a new growth point starting out right here, but like, yeah, there is no more room left. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with this plant and stat. So I don't know, I could chop it and then like continue it on, like that's definitely possible, especially since it's a crawler. It presumably has a lot of roots going on down here in the soil. So like, it should be easy enough to chop and then just kind of continue it along a new planter, or even, I don't know, that I'll have to investigate the root system, but like theoretically I could even pot it back in at like the beginning of this planter and fill it out, although I don't really know how that would look, if that would be too crowded. You'll also have to let me know like how you treat your crawling philodendrons, because yeah, I feel like they're a little bit tricky to deal with sometimes. Like, once they get to the end of the pot, I've seen some people actually just continue with like another rectangular pot, but I don't think that I want to do that either. So I don't know. I just really hope that whatever I do, like, I want to retain this massive leaf size that we've gotten to. Like, I want to maintain this maturity. Like, that is by far the most important thing to me. And I don't know, it's always so hard for me, like, thinking about starting plants over, especially like once you get to a certain point and like you've grown them out. But yeah, I've been wrestling a lot with that recently, where it's like you can only get plants so big in your house before they take up so much room that you can't accommodate them anymore. And so you kind of got to start them over to a degree. So that's something that I've been wrestling with a little bit. But regardless, I mean, this was one of my first rare plants. I think it might be one of the most expensive plants I've ever actually paid for. It's still like retained some value, but not nearly as much as what I paid for it. But it's okay because I've grown it and I've kept it alive, and it's now this absolutely stunning plant. And just look at it. It's definitely one of my favorite plants in my collection. I'm so proud of this beast and I love it a lot. I love it, I love it, I love it. But yeah, we're gonna have to figure out what to do. So honestly, I might even make like a dedicated video towards sorting out what to do with this plant, be that like propagating it and then repotting it and kind of just following the journey to see how it does, or I don't know. You'll have to let me know if you are interested in a video like that, like a dedicated mame plant care video. Like, not that it would be like how to take care of the plant necessarily. I mean, I guess it could be kind of that, but just showing the process of me chopping it and figuring out what to do. I don't know. We'll have to see. All in all, I'm honestly just so proud of this plant. I love it dearly. This will always be like one of my most beloved philodendron in my collection. I love the silver markings on it. I love the big pillowy leaves. It's just, this is one of the OGs in my collection. I feel like this was one of the plants that really, it was the result of me getting very much into houseplants and the houseplant collecting game, and dropping a lot of money on it and being like, that's okay, I'm all in, you know? Like, to me, this plant symbolizes a lot of the thrill and the hype of getting into houseplants and finally finding like a wish list plant, because I found this on Facebook Marketplace local to me, and I mean, at the time it was not all that accessible of a plant, and I just got so excited. And so this is really just like a reminder of those times. It will always be beloved to me because, you know, we've been through that journey, but also like it holds a lot of really special memories. And to see the fact that like it has officially reached the end of this pot and I'm going to have to take action, I mean, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, admittedly, to know that I'm gonna have to start over in a sense. I mean, hopefully I'll retain the leaf size, of course, and it's not entirely starting over. I'm sure I'll have plenty of cuttings and it'll be fine, it'll work out, but there's always that sense of foreboding. Like, I really hope that this works out and that it continues to grow well for me. But it's also a matter of saying goodbye to this plant as it is right now, because even if I do start it over from like a few leaves and just so that it can keep on crawling and keep on growing, you know, I am gonna be saying goodbye to this plant, like this nice full planter as it is. So that's definitely a little bit disappointing, but also exciting because then I'll have a chance of getting even bigger leaves. Well, that's gonna be it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for my channel. And again, please feel free to leave your favorite plants down in the comments below, or let me know if you have any of these plants and like how they're doing for you in your collection. I'd love to hear about that. So yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye!